Hello. So today I'm going to show you three simple ways to get your content indexed by Google. So sometimes Google can discover your content, but they won't necessarily serve it in the index straight away. And this can be for a variety of reasons that I'll go through. But there's a couple of things you can do to give them a bit of a prompt and to get your content indexed within a day or so. So firstly, if you jump onto Google Search Console, and I'll use the session media example as a run through here. Now, if you go onto pages under the index, you'll probably notice something that looks a little bit like this. Now, Google are quite good because they've started, well, for the last couple of years, they now clarify which pages aren't in the index and they give you a little reason as to why. Some of the more frustrating reasons are these two options here. So crawled, currently not indexed, and discovered, currently not indexed. So this basically means that Google is aware of the content, they know your content exists, but for one reason or another, they haven't served it in the index. So let's have a look. So let's have a look at some of these pages. So if I have a look at crawled, currently not indexed, we've got a category page, we've got a WP page, we've got a thank you page, and we've got an old case study page. So now I know, as someone that's worked on this site for many years, that these pages are not intended to be found through Google search. So this is correct. So what I'll do is go back onto page indexing. And if you go into discovered, currently not indexed, this is where you may find a few more pages that are intended to be served in index, but for one reason or another, they aren't. Now, the first thing I would always do is if there's a page that you see in here that should be in the index but isn't, then I'd firstly open it up. Now, one of the most typical things that we come across when it comes to indexing issues is thin content. Now, thin content basically means that there is not enough content for Google to justify serving it in the index. It's easy to forget that Google themselves are a private billion-dollar organization, and it costs them money to crawl the entirety of the web and to run various content and pages through their indexing, rendering, and serving process. And therefore, they're not just going to flatly render, index, and serve every single piece of content that they come across on the web. So what they're looking for is content that adds value, content that could answer user queries or solve user problems. So I can see straight off the back here, this webinar is literally just a YouTube hosted landing page. There's no content here. So Google, it will look at this, it will see it as thin content and possibly a soft 404 as well. So I'm going to ignore that one. So we've also got a few different webinar pages here. Let's see if any of them are slightly different. Now, this one's a bit more of a landing page, so it's got a bit more content on there. It's obviously a page intended to generate a sign up, and then the user can go and watch the webinar, basically. So what I'll do is this does have a little bit more content. Firstly, I would suggest adding more content in here. I would also suggest adding a custom image as well. Google is proving more and more in favor of custom images. They want to see custom images, and these are quite easy to put together quite quickly in Canva. Having a custom image is quite important for Google to see the piece of content as unique. So what I do is, if you're happy with the page, let's say we'd added some more content here, I'll take the URL, go back into Search Console, put it back into the bar up here, and then hit enter. Now, what this does is this process fetches the page from Google's database, as it were, and it'll give you a bit more info as to how Google sees the page. So, for instance, it can show you referring pages, whether it's in the sitemap, and sometimes it gives you a little bit more info as to why it may not be indexed. Now, as we know, URL is not on Google. So in the first instance, what you can do is request indexing. So what this will do is this will trigger a signal to Google to send a crawler there to recrawl the page and then determine whether it should be indexing. Now, this isn't a foolproof solution. This does not mean that Google will index the page. This just means that an indexing request has been sent, and that's really important. I think it's also important to remember that Google will frequently crawl this page a number of times. They'll frequently crawl the site every single day. And if they then determine that the page adds enough value, then they will serve it in their index. So this just essentially bumps it to the front of the queue, but it doesn't guarantee that it's going to be indexed. So that's the second way I'd say. The first way is bulking out the content, answering more user queries from keyword research, adding in a unique image. The second way would be to put the URL into the search field at the top in Search Console and hit request indexing. Now, the third way, I've always found this is a bit of a fail-safe for all indexing issues, is Omega Indexer. Now, what you can do is, I'm going to log in, but you can sign up. It's super cheap. And essentially what this does is send a URL or a bunch of URLs to Omega. They then hit it with a variety of links, and essentially it's these signals that prompt Google to index the pages. And I've seen really good success with Omega in the past. So what you can do is hit the dashboard, go to campaigns, hit new. Social media URLs just have leave the drip feed days as one. You can actually add a file here if you need, or you can simply add the URL and hit submit. And this is super cheap. It's like $20 for 1,000 lines or something like that. So as it said, this usually takes 1 to sort of 8 days or something. It's usually really effective. Again, it's not completely foolproof, but it has been a really effective fail-safe for various campaigns in the past. Now, that's 3 ways that I would recommend you go through to try and get Google to index your content. Now, don't forget to like this post, subscribe to the channel for more tips. Thank you.